All right. We should be live.
Yeah, it shows we're live.
Cool. There we go. Live show. I don't know how. We got to figure out how to change this stupid banner thing.
Damn it. Yeah, it shows. Well, I mean, I hate the way this fucking thing. See, this is what I don't like. It's just so goddamn clunky.
Here we go. I figured it out. Episode. Are we 52 already?
We are 52.
52. Cool. All right. So I figured out how to do that. And then I'm going to do a quick share, and then we'll get underway. Give some people a second to hop in here. If you're just hopping in, don't forget you can always hop in the chat. We'll keep that monitoring. We're not going to jump on it like we do when we're streaming, but keep an eye on it. And then we are just about ready. Come on. Twitter, do your thing. 52. Okay. First Friday live. First time we finally made a Friday live. That's nice.
We haven't done one before? Oh, no, we tried to, and it didn't work out.
We tried to, yeah. It didn't work out.
Right.
So, all right. Here, I'll throw the jingle in, and we'll get into it, maybe. Slightly above average gamers, way above average podcast. Welcome to the Slightly Above Average Gaming Podcast with your hosts, J007tv and SuboneKD.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 52 of the Slightly Above Average Gaming Podcast. I am J007tv, joined, as always, by the homie SuboneKD. What's up, man?
It's Friday. We've made it to Friday, and we're not doing the Saturday morning episode like we usually do. So a little bit different for us. You know, I think we'd like to try and be in this time slot a little bit more than Saturday morning. It's a little easier sometimes, but that hasn't worked out lately. So, but we're here. We're live, getting the episode going. It is Friday.
You already cracking a beer, bro?
Yeah, I'm off work for the day.
Oh, Jesus. If I started now, dude, I would not be able to feel my fucking face by the time I got on Warzone. So it'll be about 5:30, 6 o'clock before I hit one. But believe me, I will. I already stopped by the beer store earlier, so yeah,
nice.
I'm ready to go. I'm actually tonight. I'm going to be playing Warzone with Jigsy, with the homie King, and my kid's going to come in and play after.
Oh, great!
Jigsy beats the shit out of him in some customs for a little while.
You know what? I'm playing Warzone this afternoon as well with someone new. So my daughter is, she's 10 years old now. She's in school, and somehow it got out that I play Call of Duty, that I play Warzone and whatnot. And I get a note from one of her friends saying, basically like a handwritten note saying, I heard you play Warzone. I don't have anyone to play with. Would you play with me? And, check yes or no in like the little boxes. And so I told him I'd play with him. So we're going to try and play. I hooked him up with some headphones and some other stuff that he was missing.
Nice. You should show the note.
You know what? Maybe I'll share that on Twitter.
Yeah.
Share that out.
I mean, you sent that to me. I got a kick out of that. I thought that was funny as hell.
It's super cute. It's one of those things of like, you don't realize when you've turned into a role model until you do. And you're like, oh, shit, I got to like behave myself.
Yeah, I get in trouble for that all the time, too. That's why my wife had to build this room, had to help me build this room. So I'm in here. When I rage, my kid doesn't hear it. But anyway.
Yeah, but now your kid will join you on it. So that's great.
Yeah, that ought to be fun.
What are you doing this weekend?
Basically nothing. Just getting ready for vacation. We're going to those national parks next week. So... I'm going to be doing that, and doing a World Series of Warzone watch party both tomorrow and Sunday. So I have Drade and Jigsy hopping in, chat with me.
Nice.
I know for sure on Saturday. I don't know about Sunday yet. I actually reached out to Robeezy about maybe joining, but I never really followed up on that. Because he said he wasn't sure what he had going on. So no big deal. I'm just going to hop on and vibe and watch it like last year, man. We had a great time. Unfortunately, neither Silencer nor Lipe will be able to hop in with us because they are actually going to the World Series of Warzone.
Yeah, I was playing with Lipe last night, and he was talking about it. He's excited. I guess he has a wedding on Saturday night, so he's flying to Vegas or driving to Vegas or something, going there in the morning, then going back, going to the wedding, then going back to Vegas on Sunday, and then watching it. That's dedication right there. It also helps when they package the 2-day tickets together.
yeah, they do. And you know what's funny is I don't think they're that expensive. I think that if I remember correctly, I think the pricing
was like $100 for 2 days.
Yeah,
like that's a steal. I mean, I'm sure it's still $8 beers when you're there, but
yeah. But I'll tell you too, after going to Call of Duty Champs, so I just got general admission, and so I know at Champs they had certain sections marked off. It was really confusing how they did the tickets because they'd put a letter with a seat number on it, so a row number and a seat number, but that wasn't where you sit. Like it ended up in the VIP section or something like that, because I know I didn't get that.
Yeah.
So they were like, yeah, no, with these general admission tickets, you just sit anywhere. Right. And then the VIP sit here, and that was usually like center stage. Did you see the setup though?
It looks pretty good.
For the World Series
everybody up on the stage, right? And then you've got the floor seating right up underneath it, and then the stadium seating around it.
Well, yeah, and the cool thing is, so you've got the front desk too with the on-air talent. Those guys are out a ways, but they've got the big screen back behind the players, and then the casters will be casting over the speakers in the arena. So. And it's funny, they're doing it at the Orleans, which is my very first time to Vegas. I was on a work trip. That's where we ended up staying, was the Orleans. So that was kind of cool.
I don't know if I've ever stayed in the Orleans.
It's obviously New Orleans themed. Like it's fucking, yeah.
Is that on the Strip?
I don't know. I can't remember. It's been a long time, but yeah, it was a decent hotel. It wasn't like, unless they did, which I'm sure they probably did some upgrades, right? Like, surely they had to, because this has been at least 15 years since minimum. So,
let's see here. So I got married in Vegas. Wife and I, we got married at the Wynn. Spent a lot of time there. Used to, so from the Bay Area, it used to be like a $39 flight that you'd take. You'd take the the way we used to do is you take the 6 a.m. flight. You fly into you fly into Vegas. You're there by 8. You're in, you're out of the airport. You're basically on the Strip by 9, and then there's a 7 o'clock or a 6:30 flight back Sunday morning, and you hop that, and you basically go straight from the airport to work.
No. No, not doing it. Not doing it.
We used to do that a lot.
I'm not doing it. But I will tell you this though. So after that experience I had at Champs, if they do this in NA again, North America, I'm going. I don't care where it is. I'm going, because it was just a great experience to get to go and do that and be around everybody. I mean, obviously it's going to be a little different as far as, like, I think some of the energy, because obviously the CDL was built around orgs, and specific, orgs that have played all year or whatever. You got the green wall and phase and all that. But yeah, I definitely am going to do that.
I think it's interesting that the CDL is so like hodgepodge in the World Series of Warzone is so hodgepodge in comparison to CDL. It's like how, except for the content creator, the ones that do content creation that are known, that are well known, it's like who the heck is running? Like, who's in it? Like there's a handful of names that you'll know, but it's like you look at the list of like people and it's like, who the heck is that? Half the list to me reads like a bunch of randos.
Well, it's because they did qualifiers. Like, you had to actually qualify and play in this year, rather than, certain captains be selected and invited because they stream to 3,000 people just chatting or whatever the hell else they stream, like in years past. I think this year you're going to see much more high level gameplay. I'm just like, I think last year was pretty decent too. I can't remember if they had the captains last year or not, but no, this year it was play in. So
yeah, I think it's great. Don't get me wrong. I really think playing in is great. I think it struggles because there's not a lot of people aren't going to have a built-in fan base, right? So it's kind of like, you think of like Optic and FaZe and all these other orgs that have been around for a long time, and that they're not built around individual players, right? So like if SSD breaks up after this, right, like their fans are going to fracture and go with the talent versus, Optic fans, are more of like a professional sports fan base, right? They're there for Optic, and who they bring, when they bring people on or off, right, that you don't necessarily leave your Optic fandom, right? Because you're org centered. And I think that is something that holds back World Series of Warzone a little bit.
Well, and you know what's funny? So there's talk that Biffle may retire after this year. So I know Repulse has mentioned that a couple times this last week, and if he does, I'd be curious to see because I think that Shifty and Soka are going to stay together. That just makes sense. They played before. I think it was Shifty, Soka, and Sage, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't plug Sage back in.
It would make sense.
I mean, any team that has any of those three guys is going to be fucking really, really good. So and dude, so it was really cool this week on the Pulse Check podcast. They did a kind of like a tier ranking of the teams, and obviously, let's go ahead. We'll just skip to number one. We know who the current number one team is, but there was a lot of debate for 6 through 10 and the remaining 4 teams on the top 5. I mean, the biggest thing for me is they had Braxton's team with Juju and youngsters at 6. I would have plugged them into the top 5, and there was another team I didn't even know who the hell it was that they put up there. It might even been maybe an EU team. I'm going to find the rankings here so we can actually. I wasn't thinking that we'd actually talk about that part of it, but otherwise I would have had it up already. But let's see.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting, going forward. It'd be interesting to see them pour more into Warzone, like the competitive side of Warzone. I've seen a couple of people tweeting about it, and they say, what would it take? And I mean, I think it takes figuring out how to make teams that last for more than a few months, and like have that be more of the norm. Like, I think having everybody playing is great, but I think, until you have an Optic team or, it's kind of like how it feels more like how NASCAR feels a little bit, where it's kind of like everybody likes the driver, right? But the drivers are they're on teams, right? And so it's kind of like, it's like the Pennzoil team, right? So you might have a couple of people racing for Pennzoil. And so you like the driver. It's like, I think there has to be another step up besides just we cheer for one of these individuals or one of these groups where there's almost like teams are spots are sponsored or something.
Well, actually, it's funny that you mentioned that. I need to go to Alex's page, but he's got a team in.
I know. Yeah, his team community.
Yeah,
he's got a coach up in there. He's got everything going. And,
Tommy is coaching one of the GOATs.
I know.
So
and he was he
awesome.
posted a picture earlier late yesterday, earlier today.
Who was his
practice?
Who was his team? I'm trying to remember.
You're asking me like I follow that closely.
That's a good point. Hang on, I'll tell you.
I'm here to do all the nerdy stuff and wear a beard. That's my role here.
All right, let's see who his team is. So I know it's Scumman's team.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's Scumman's team, and so that is. Let's see I'm trying to find him on the tier list because I don't know. I got to be honest. I know a lot of the people that are competing in this, but I don't know who a lot are either. Like, there's a bunch that I am not real sure about.
Yeah.
That I don't know. Ew. Hang on. I'm looking at this tiered list that they've got because there's 40 teams. I just don't remember where they ranked Scumman's team.
Clearly not at the top.
No, it was not at the top. Fuck it. It'll come to me at some point.
It'll come to you about 20 minutes after we log off. You'll text me and be like, "It was so-and-so."
No shit. But yeah, so I would have for the top 5, I would have taken out Stuo's team, which evidently in Exion, I think that's how you say the name, didn't get their visa. So unfortunately, they're having to sub in noobs on that team. And those guys, I don't know how much, if ever, they've played together before. So that could be it could be rough. But, their top 5, it was Biffle's team, basically SSD, Aiden, DJ, and Schmidt, Stu Woe's team, iHeeds with Inkio, and then it's Dongy and Scummin. Jesus Christ, they were at the top. Dongy, Unrational, and Scummin, they're in the top 5. Okay. That's a good team. So I remember seeing Dongy's team. I just couldn't remember like that the third was Scummin, but I've seen that team towards end circle putting in some work on several of the scrims that I've watched over the last few weeks. It's not every single time, but they've done pretty well. And Dongy at one point in time for a top 250 was ranked number 1, if I remember correctly.
Great.
So I mean
it's got potential.
Yeah, they really do. And then I would move up Super Evans' team into the 6th spot, kind of where they had Braxton. So if I'm moving Brax up and Stu Woe's team out, I would move Evans' team. I think that team's actually going to do very well too. So that's honor and empathy.
All right. I mean, but let's be honest. Who's playing? Are they playing for second place? Is everybody else playing for second place at this point?
I think you'll have to look at that after about 2 or 3 matches, and then you'll see. I think the first 2 or 3 matches, people are going to be fucking going balls out trying to win, of course. Right. I mean, and again, we still don't know if people are going to decide to, pop off on SSD or not. They may. I heard, actually, I think this last week, like 2 or 3 teams tried to do that in one of the tournaments and just got absolutely shit on. So we'll see, man. But no, again, and I tweeted this earlier. So my teams that I really want to see do well is, Aiden and DJ's team with Smith, Braxton's team, and then both of the team involved teams. Cause like I said, there, you've got Waldo, Nick Cool, on their team, and then, Slide HD, it's Colony with Waldo and Nicole, and then Slide HD's team. So I hope those guys do well.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have that. Rob's got 2 teams in there right now. What a testament to his ability to put a group together.
Yeah, and I don't know if the other 2 guys on I don't know if those other 2 are involved, but I know for sure Slide is.
Yeah, but I mean, he's got multiple people in. That's more than a lot of other orgs can say right now. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, there's a very. Are there any orgs that actually have more than 1 or 2 players in it?
Omit's got Omit EU and then Omit NA. Okay. So yeah, they've got some.
I mean, if you're up in that, I mean, that's the caliber of that you're punching up to. That's pretty good for involved. So we're if you're newer to the podcast, we're big fans of Team Involved. We know the owner pretty well. We've had multiple members on as guests, including Waldo.
Yeah.
So great guy, great episode. Go ahead and check the back catalog if you missed it. But yeah, we had really had a good time with them. So we're rooting for them. And look, I think it's one of those things where it's like, how when you get a dynasty going in a sport, and all of a sudden it's like they go from it goes from like this. It's amazing. Like remember the Patriots, right? Yeah, the Patriots won like 2 in a row, or like they were just doing really well. And then by the end of their dynasty, it was like, are you freaking kidding me? It's the Patriots again. Can we just like retire Tom Brady? And like it was like you could just feel the shift in people who weren't Patriots fans, because like obviously if you're a Patriots fan, you're a Patriots fan. You're loving it.
Yeah, and what's funny though, you mentioned that there are a lot of people that were like that I know. They were just sick of the Patriots, or in the 90s the Cowboys and the Niners. I never really took that approach that much. I mean, like, listen, SSD, if they win it, I won't be surprised. I'd be happy for them because they are currently the best in the world. As it sits right now, they've won the most tournaments this year. If they win it, cool. I would be more excited if some of those other teams won. It's no shade to them. It's just, I have friendships with a couple of the people that are playing, and I hope that they do well, and I'd like to see them win.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one of those things that's just, it's interesting to just see like when there's a team that is that dominant, right? Mm-hmm. Like Who? I mean, how do you let that team get put together and you don't figure out a way to knock them off? I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But this will be an interesting show, or series. Who do you got in the solo Yolo?
I
Skullface
think
in here again?
Breadman's gonna. Honestly, I think Bread's gonna make a run at it.
Okay.
He and Aiden, and Skullface were three of like the top 5 in that last year, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
With obviously Skullface pulling it out, but I mean, again, everybody that's competing in World Series of Warzone is competing in that solo YOLO. Right. So yeah.
I remember it was interesting to hear people talk about it, because I remember when Skullface won, there was some controversy, if you recall.
Yep.
About a gulag, right? He was, he won his gulag because the other guy kind of threw it, and I think, I wonder how many people in the solo YOLO are kind of not in that, to like their heart's not in that, they're focused on the team games.
I don't know. I don't. I think that would be hard to say, because I mean, look, these guys are all competitors. Most of these are. Most of them don't make a lot of money from content creation side of it. So, winning that money could be, life changing for some people.
It's big money, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Remind me, it was 300 or 250 that the winner took home.
I can't remember the exact amount from last year, but I will say this, and they changed that up this year too. They made a point of that. Because the solo YOLO Skullface took home more money than any of the guys that actually, Biffle and those guys. Yeah. So, they did change that up, but they also changed up the formatting with that too. That is, they are running the solo YOLO first. That is the first thing that kicks off tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Get that out of the way, because that was end of day Saturday, right?
Yeah. Well, they split it into 2 days too. So they're doing the solo YOLO tomorrow. They're doing the initial matches tomorrow, and then championship Sunday. So they kind of made a weekend out of it, which is cool.
Are they running any matches before the championship day, like game?
I don't think so. Let's see. I'm looking here. I don't think so. I don't see that on the schedule, but yeah, I know it's supposed to start at like 2 on Sunday, so I don't think so.
Probably not. Yeah, probably just
it's like 2 or 2:30. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and obviously they'll have coverage of it, on the Call of Duty Twitch and YouTube channels early, kind of pregame coverage, that kind of stuff. But again, I am doing a watch party tomorrow. Come into chat and hang out.
What time?
I'll have.
What time you starting?
I'm probably going to start it about because I believe it starts at like noon 30 my time tomorrow. So
in case anybody doesn't know.
Yeah, Central. So I'll probably start it around maybe about 15 minutes beforehand.
Okay. Yeah. Good time.
Yeah. So
cool.
So yeah, it'll be fun, man. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I'll have Drade and Jigsy with me in the Discord chatting, and we may pull in a couple others. It just depends.
Yeah. Yeah, I will not be attending. I will be probably not even watching, because we're traveling this weekend. First time out for a while to a like an amusement park hotel thing out here called Great Wolf Lodge. So that'll be a fun.
Yeah, it'll be great.
Starting my pregame early for that.
Picture Chuck E. Cheese with fucking water slides, because that's essentially what that place is, dude. Like I told you, I had a conference there one time.
Yeah, you told me that sounded terrible.
No, well, I mean, it kind of was, because it's like when you go to these conferences, the whole point is it's not just the exhibition, the exhibit hall and the classes. It's the networking after, and when you got to take a 25-minute Uber ride somewhere else because the bar and the children's hotel closes down at like fucking 9:00. Like, and I'm exaggerating on the timing of when that closed, but
no, I think it closes at 9. I think you're right.
It's early. I know it's not. They don't keep it open late.
Everything shuts down at like 9 or 10, and it's
so crazy, dude.
I mean, it's
like, a kid's place.
It's a kid's place like that. I'm gonna go and say whoever organized your conference they kind of messed that up a little bit.
When I say former president of the organization, former president of the organization.
Yahtzee. Yeah, well, hopefully they're not going to screw up season 6 in The Haunting, because, Haunting is next week, starts on Wednesday, I believe.
Yep.
And it's going to be an interesting Haunting this year, because it's not, last year they extended it, if I remember. They made the call to extend the dates in Warzone.
It was too long, dude.
It was way too long. It went into like November.
Yeah.
But this year, the closing dates, it's supposed to be over by like the 16th or 17th of October, which to me is crazy. Because why, it's The Haunting. It's the Halloween event. Why are you not doing that on Halloween? Like, why?
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, why are you, look, I get it. You're on, you're on Hobby Lobby time, right? So you got to put the Halloween decorations out in like, July. I think that's going to be unfortunate, but I did, take a look at it. And did you, what did you think about all of the Haunting stuff that's coming to the big map?
First and foremost, we got to talk about the elephant in the room with that. I'm sorry, did you say all the stuff coming to the big map?
I did.
You know what though, dude? I'm kind of the opinion now, the more I think about this, is it kind of sucks we're not going to get any content, but I can also distinctly remember myself, if I'm going to be honest here, bitching about it after about 2 days because it was fucking dark all the time and there were goddamn demons everywhere. Yeah. So I guess for me, it's a matter of principle that, again, the big map is being neglected for Resurgence, but... And I'm happy for our friends that play Resurgence. Cool. You guys are getting a shit ton of content this year. Enjoy it. I just don't understand how, yet again, all we've gotten big map wise since Urzikstan came out is fucking Pop Off is green. No other events. Like, we didn't have I don't even think we had a 4th of July event. None of that stuff. And they've typically been very good at that stuff. Like, their events have been solid.
I don't think did we have any events this year?
Not that I can remember. We did have the Christmas one, but that was right after it came out.
Yeah, that was like day one.
Remember, it was like Zombie Santa or some shit. Like,
actually, you know what? I'm going to say this. I enjoyed the Christmas event. Quite immensely. I really liked it.
It was okay. It was
it was fun. Runaway Train, right? If you remember,
which is now in Warzone.
It's now in Warzone, and I actually like it when they don't bug the train out and start the train on the other side of the map. And so the next zone is like 1,200 meters away, and good luck. But I did. I thought it was a really fun mode. I thought it stuck around a little too long. They tend to do that, and I think that the Runaway Train was fun. The Zombie Santa aspect of it was, basically like Juggernaut Santa. So it wasn't even as annoying as Krampus was, if I recall. But that was entertaining, at least. I'll give it that. And then we had we had the snowballs, the overpowered snowballs. And I think that's when kind of the wheels came off, when people realized that the snowballs were so OP on that mode, because then it was like a giant snowball fight.
Well, I mean, that's probably by design, I would think.
Well, I mean, it was on for like 3 weeks or something, or 3 or 4 weeks, and the first like 2 weeks, it was really not very sweaty, and there weren't a lot of people weren't using the snowballs as much. And then I think somewhere in there, somebody probably on TikTok realized that they dealt a decent amount of damage, but they stunned the shit out of you. And so you could just sit there and spam snowballs, because they were everywhere. You could just spam snowballs at somebody, and then it was like a one tap and done. And so it was kind of like it outlived itself a little bit, I think, towards the end. But it was an enjoyable mode, and then it really set a good tone and precedent for what we could expect for Black Ops 6 for Modern Warfare 3 Warzone, and then we just got nothing at all. Except Rebirth.
No, like I said, Pop Off is green. It's got some green mold or fungus or whatever the hell. And then we got Superstore, and that's really the only big changes to the map, which Super is cool. I mean, I'll drop there once in a while playing solos.
And nobody else does. It's not the hot drop. It's not relevant to the map. Like its location, it fills a void I'll say that it fills a void of the map where there was just nothing there before. And I give them props for figuring out what to do with that spot. But freaking nobody goes there.
It's pretty. Every time I've ever dropped there, it's been hot. I know DJ and Aiden dropped there. That's their POI. That's where they drop, which is good because it's kind of far enough from pop off to where they can rotate over to Old Town or over to the farms or whatever if they need to. But I mean, some people drop there. It's not going to be stadium like in Verdansk, and it's not going to be the old deal. And then also too, you got to factor in, you got bunkers with those contracts to where you can get in and get the full. So that's why it's not as hot, because if you notice, so I've been watching Grits the last couple days. You know who Grits is, right?
Mm-hmm.
For those of you that don't know, Grits is the number one player. He's also top 250. He's been a top 250, but he is number one in total wins. That dude's going to likely have 5,000 or more wins by the time we roll stats over, whenever that happens, whether that's season 1 or when the Black Ops, when we start with Black Ops. I don't know when that'll be. But Anyway, I've been watching them, and that's what they do. They land in like a general area, and then they find that contract, they work the contracts, and then they go and they get specialists in the foresight, and then they move to zone. Like, they literally move to where the area of where the zone is going to close based on the foresight, and they just fucking hold it.
Yeah.
They're fighting the whole time. They're not camping, but they're, you know what I mean? Like, that's how they're playing.
But I mean, for the rest of us, I mean, every lobby that I've dropped Superstore, there's like one other team, maybe two tops. But if you remember Verdansk, like Superstore was the drop. Like if you wanted to mix it up off rip, like you dropped Superstore, and it was like
side doors too on the bottom floor.
Mm-hmm. And you were mixing it up with like minimum 3 other teams in quads. Imagine the number of people there, and most of them were top teams. Like you were not mixing it up with scrubs. So we dropped there and would just be eliminated immediately. But
right.
But I mean, that was just that's where you went if you wanted to drop in the hottest, and that was like a big strat. Like if you wanted to win it, you dropped super, you knocked out the teams that were there. That means you knocked out the best teams in the map, and then you just skated through, and just ran your rotation from there, because you had all the cash in the world. Get some kills early, either kill them off or chase them out. Get you had buy stations there. You got loadout immediately. And the new Superstore is just not the same. It's just not the same. Like it's not in the right spot for people to be like, yeah, this is where we're dropping right now.
Well, yeah, Superstore was right off of the airport, outside of the airport in that area, and over by one of the promenades, I think, was close. It was actually, no, the promenade was a little further the other way. It was, I can't remember the other POI, but there was a decent one. But anyway, we can this kind of fits in a little bit with what I mentioned that we should chat about here in just a little bit about like just good habits.
Mm-hmm.
So let's shelve that part of the conversation for then, because I think it'll be worthwhile to do that. But the elephant in the room that I was actually going to mention is fucking Michael Myers is coming to the Haunting event, and this season, you shut up and take my money. Be awesome if they had a sound pack, like, so you can hear the Michael Myers Halloween theme song. How legit would that be?
Yeah.
And then the other one that, to me, I'm glad he's coming, but it's like, why did we wait so long? Daryl Dixon.
Yeah.
From The Walking Dead. Like, what?
Didn't we have a whole Walking Dead season?
We did. Rick and Michonne were like in it. Like, I think that was season 2. I think it was season 2. I could be wrong about that.
That felt like a weird season to have then,
because it was all zombies related.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, the Haunting. I feel like we've overdone the Haunting already, because we had that season. Everything was like zombies. We've had zombies out, so there's been a lot of zombies content on the Warzone map, and now it's like we're getting into the Haunting, and it's kind of like, oh, good, more zombies.
Yeah.
Kind of done.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. I mean, there'll be jump scares and stuff like that. But as far as I'm concerned, and like I tweeted, and I know this is, again, a get off my lawn kind of thing, probably not going to play a single second of the haunting event, man. I'm just not interested in Resurgence, dude. I just don't like it. I don't want to play it. If they do some kind of mini BR haunting event, like they did on Vondel back in the day, I would play that.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
Yeah.
They did launch. What did they do? The Warzone modes are. I feel like it's a little different this year. There's more. I feel like they've got a different mode than they had before. Because you've got Brave Purgatory, Zombie Royale LTMs. That's the Zombie Royale should be the normal zombies that we're used to.
Sorry, my son hopped in. What's up?
So I'm just looking at the different modes. So you've got the Haunting Vondel, which is Vondel at night.
Uh-huh.
Right? And then you've got this Purgatory, limited time mode, Hellspawn, which is this the one? Yeah, so this is the interesting one. This is one that they're basically turning Warzone into multiplayer. So if you think about, how we had, I can't remember it now, but Lockdown, right? Where you had to lock down the zones, capture the flag style. This one is like, I'm reading it and it reads like it's just a nonstop TDM for the duration of the map. Like infinite respawns, all armor and power, all that stuff's there. But there's they literally have safe zones hang out in. They chill in the safe zone, move into a designated safe zone and take a break from combat and chill with other operators. Like, what? That's okay. Safe zones are easily identified by the translucent dome, and closing them inside the dome, operators enter third-person perspective and are unable to deal or receive damage. Interesting.
I don't know, man. I mean, what I kind of worry about is that I'm hoping that they're going to continue to try to walk back some of the respawn nonsense and the big map stuff. But when you see modes like this that are limited time modes, are they testing to see, how many people play it, whether people like it? It makes me a little nervous about what other kind of fucking nonsense they can add into the BR part of it. Because for me personally, dude, I'm just going to tell you, there will be a certain point where I'm just going to be like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm out. I can't do this anymore. Yeah. I will go play something else. I legit will go play something else. I'm kind of at the precipice of that right now. It's been kind of going down and backing off a little, especially since I've been playing solos, but I just don't know how much more of that kind of shit I can take in a BR, dude.
Well, I mean, I think it's, again, I'm curious to see what they do with the integration. So they're going to because remember, they're going to bring Blackout in. They're going to merge Blackout. We'll get all the guns and movement probably in December, early December. But we're not going to get the actual, new map until probably, was it March? So we're what a full, is that 5 months out now?
From now, it's 6 months. Well, it's less than 6. It's around 6 months right now because it's September. So you got September, October, November, December, January, February, and March 10th. So
okay. So we're 6 months out from getting a new map. So we're stuck on this map. So
getting ranked too.
And we will get ranked. That is what I don't remember if they confirmed it or if
they said it's coming season 1.
Season 1. So yeah, so we should get ranked early December. We should have that soon. So that's positive, right? So that should chill out a lot of the BR purity stuff because you finally get SR on the line.
Well, yeah, it'll and much like the World Series of Warzone, which they took out the redeploy flares and stuff like that too. Mm-hmm. And they've banned certain things. They take out the cheese in the ranked play, and I like that. And that mode ranked, it just doesn't matter how many times you die. I mean, more kills is always better. Because you get more SR, which we've talked about. But they said season 1 reloaded, if I remember correctly. So if that's the case,
then it's right after Christmas.
Yeah, you're looking at fucking January or February, probably.
Well, when on it because it's 8-week seasons, right?
I think so. Yeah.
So we should have it. It
matters when
January.
Season 1 starts, though, because it's not technically 8 weeks. if the release date starts, like that's when the clock starts ticking, right? It's the 25th of October. And then we're supposed to get the new map on, obviously, like we talked about, March 10th, probably approximate. Like it'd be crazy not to, but just moving forward, assuming it's March 10th, right?
Yeah. I mean, typically they've started season 1, season 2 in the season 1 reloaded is like end of mid to end of January, maybe the first of February sometimes.
Yeah.
I think the only exception was Caldera, which was super weird. Yeah, because of the timing on that. But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, so probably right after Christmas, we should start to expect ranked, which is good.
Can't get here fast enough. And, again, and I really do believe that if they throw a ranked mode, I was talking with Drade about this, I think, last night. If they throw ranked mode out there, I think it's going to make pubs a little less sweaty.
I hope so. That'd be nice.
I mean, sure, there are going to be people who are going to be like, tired of the grind or whatever. But if you look at it, the iridescent players are going to be constantly grinding to try to hop into that top 250. The top 250 players are going to be constantly playing so they don't lose their top 250 status.
Right.
Because you don't, just because you hit top 250 on, say, week 1 of the season, you don't get the rewards for that unless you finish in the top 250, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, no, because at the
end of the season.
Yeah, because you have to be in the top 250 when the season closes, and it's cumulative, right? So if you stop playing for a while, you can be forced out because people will just play more than you.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about people grinding. So I think,
but the other modes aren't like that. Like you can, so I think I would think pubs are going to stay pretty sweaty because you're going to, the folks that will grind up, they'll hit a point, they'll hit what they want or they'll hit a high point and they're just kind of like, all right, I need to stop. I need to take a break because until you get to top 250, your SR is not cumulative. You're just like, it's not relevant of how much you play.
Right.
You can play to you can play to Crimson and stop and just, you'll be there all season.
Yeah, that you can. It's just the top 250 is a rolling 250.
Right. But I mean, that's only a couple hundred players, the actual top 250 and the people trying to break it. You look at the thousands of players that are just going to be out there, like they'll hit Crim, they'll hit, maybe they'll hit Erie and they'll be like, okay, I'm good. I don't need to grind it. Or that, or by the time they do, they look at it and so far ahead, there's no point in grinding for top 250 because they're not going to get it that season because top 250 will reset seasonally.
Yeah.
So, I don't think it's going to de-sweatify it a little bit as much, but I think it will make it for most players because, most players are bronze and silver and gold 1. And those players are going to, I think a lot of those players will actually enjoy ranked more because they're not, they're not going to face the super high end players as often. They're going to face players more in their skill bracket. So they'll stay there more. So
yeah,
I think we might see fewer bad players in pubs with ranked.
It depends.
The way they do it.
I mean, maybe that would make sense, but you have to look at it's a mindset thing too, right? Like some players just want to hop on and play. They don't give a fuck about rank. They don't want to fucking compete.
Or they
barely
have 4 players.
Want to fucking compete, much less go in and grind for a rank. So, I mean,
you're saying that most players aren't going to sit there and solo queue?
No, you're fucking nuts for doing that. I mean, seriously, we've talked about this before, and I've said this several times to other people. Y'all hop in and play randoms, and you end up getting fucking Helen Keller, who can't see shit or hear shit, or fucking Tommy Two Thumbs or No Thumbs or whatever, and then you guys complain about it. It's like, that's what you get.
That's what we get.
But you should be running more solos, my dude. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I got to get back to the solos grind.
All Drade runs, by the way. He'll run quads or whatever, but like he's primarily a solo player. And dude, I've been having hella fun running solos. I've had some really good games over the last 2 weeks running solos.
Yeah. I mean, it's the solos I've been running have been enjoyable. I haven't hated the solos I've played. We'll put it that way. I just don't love playing the game by myself. I don't find that as enjoyable of an experience. I mean, I have to temper that these days with how much SBMM kicks you in the nuts. But generally speaking, I don't love the solos experience. You know, I'm not like, I'm going to go in and frag out in solos all day. I'm like, I'm just playing with myself.
I look forward to it my couple days a week where I'm able to really do that. Because during the weekend, I don't get to play as many solos or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it's like, to me, it goes down to like that whole game loop thing. You know, like that we've talked about several times. The game loop for solos is the closest thing to early Verdansk that we currently have. And I was telling Drade and Lord Knight this last night. If the matchmaking was in duos, trios, and quads the way it is in solos, I'd fucking never say a word about it. Like, and I've had a mixture of lobbies, dude. I've gotten beat by Spiros, top 250 guy. I've gotten shit on by Crims, by Eries, whatever. But I've also had my fair share of good matches where, you know, I'm dropping double digits or, you know, 4,000 or 5,000 damage. Like, I had 2 7-kill games in a row last night, and then I dropped a 9 later that I was doing some crazy shit. I thought I was about to win that match, but it didn't work out that way.
That's how the cookie crumbles. But yeah, no, I mean, you're right. And it's something that I've just got to start doing more of. I think lately it's, you know, the problem is I haven't been running. I've been using my date. So I don't love running solos at night because when I get on at night, I mean, I'm in the sweat zone of Sweat City because, you know, I'm Pacific time, and you know, I'm booting up at 9:30 at night. So I don't know why. I don't know who wakes up at that time and decides that they're just going to, like, you know, VPN into it. But it is every game is sweaty beyond recognition. Now when I get on and I get some time during the morning and I get to play, it is like night and day different. It is completely different. And so my experience in the morning has been really enjoyable, even solo queuing. Like, you know, about 12:30, 1 o'clock, you know, when I've had games, like, you know, I've had games hopped on at lunch a couple of times with some people, and they're just miserable, right? Like, this, you know, you can tell that the East Coast, it's 4 o'clock on the East Coast, they're starting to get fired up and getting running. You know, it's what is it, nighttime in the UK, so the VPNers over there are getting fired up, and so it starts to get sweatier.
I don't blame them for VPNing out of the UK servers. I'd VPN out of that shit too.
Yeah, but they're in my lobbies, and I don't like that.
No, I mean, I get it, dude, and it's crazy. I honestly think Texas servers are pretty solid overall. I mean, the lobbies are fucking sweaty, you know, but like the connection is not. I mean, I don't know that a lot of people are probably VPNing into Texas. You know, it's more West Coast, and it's more from like other countries too.
Yeah, and you know, we get a lot of Spanish here in you know, I think I get connected to the LA server a lot, which gets a lot of, you know, Central America. And so it's just a different experience for me in the evenings when I play.
Yeah.
Versus, like, you know, and so like I don't want to play in the evenings and try and take it seriously because I'm just gonna get shit on anyways by, you know, Crims and Eries and, you know, and level 27s that have everything unlocked and see through walls. Like, that, for me, that's like a normal experience. Like, if I just hop on and play, like, that's what I run into on the regular, versus like people that play, you know, normal times in Texas, right? Or even like, you know, I played with a guy who lived in Florida for a long time, and when he would host, he'd pull us to the Florida server, so I'm at 70 ping, which sucked. But those servers were not very populous with people, you know, out of the area, right? Those people were all on our servers, and so those lobbies were better. And so it was kind of like I don't know, it's this weird mix, but like for whatever reason, starting like mid last year, my time zone, like my playtime area, has gone from like the best time and place to play to the worst, at least in the US. And I don't know why, but yeah, like when I hop in the when I hop in the middle of the mid morning or whatever, like sometimes I'll get on and you know, I won't have a heavy plate of work in the morning, so I'll hop on and play like an hour, and that's where I've been doing most of my solo grind in ranked. And it's been, you know, well, the randos have not been enjoyable. They've been I don't think I've had a single rando that can even keep up with me, which says a lot about how these guys get to gold 3 and plat 1 by themselves. It's bad, but it's just a better, but I think I posted a scoreboard from one of my games earlier because I had 9 kills in 3rd place. And my team collectively had like 2 that whole time. And they just spent a lot of time dead.
I mean, listen, sometimes that happens. Like depending on who I play with, there might be some games where I have 1 or 2 kills and 2 of the other guys have got double digits and the third guy's got 8 and I've got 6 assists or whatever, but like it just,
they're not even getting assists, right?
It happens like that.
And so here's something I think is interesting. And I think this is, I alluded to this in a tweet, and I think you get into this problem where people spend a lot of time playing in their SBMM lobbies. Maybe they're spending a lot of time playing in that boot camp mode. And then they hop in a ranked and they get carried with people to a higher rank than they probably are legitimately good enough to play. Like some of these players, like that I've played with, are just like, how did you get here? How did you even get to gold? Because you just are not a good player. Like I had one match where I swear to gosh, like I like to drop that little ammo shack off of prison on the one side of it, and I swear I had one teammate. He just kept dropping control. He'd die, respawn, and reach out, and I'm like, what are you doing? There are 3 teams at control. You aren't good enough to get any of them. I watched it because I eventually went over there, and he dropped in and like chowed a guy with a machine gun with a pistol on the drop, and he was dead before he even hit the ground. I'm like, you're not even like trying, are you? Like, what are you doing? And it was, and he was in gold 3, and I'm like, in gold 3, you should be able to, if you're a legitimate gold player, you should be able to handle one-on-ones with other gold players. Like you should just be able to do that. I imagine. Maybe I'm crazy.
I mean, I would hope so. I mean, but I lose a lot of fights that I feel like I should win. That's why I've changed up my warm up and practice habits because I think I identified why, and so I'm trying to fix it, man. I'm trying to hold on, bro.
Holding on.
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to be 46 on Sunday, and
happy early birthday.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
it'll be happy birthday to you when everybody hears this on Monday, because that'll have been yesterday. So we'll time travel.
No, it's not this Sunday. It's next Sunday.
Okay, yeah. Then forget what I said. Shut up, me.
Fuck me, then, right? But it's funny, like just kind of how the conversation is flowing a little bit. It kind of takes us into habits of good players. You talk about like how these guys are able to get up into some of the ranks they're in, and we all watch players that are really, really good. And the one thing that I think that is a common denominator for all of those players is they always have they always have a plan.
Uh-huh.
But the biggest thing, the end game thing is they always have money and intel. Always.
Yeah.
And I was talking with one of my squad mates the other day, and he's mentioned the intel, but I think when he mentions intel, he's talking about knowing how many people are in a specific building and as to whether we want to push that or not, which is true. I'm talking about having, being able to get a UAV or advanced UAV up, like you see these guys doing. So they know where literally everybody is on the map, right, where they're going to be coming from, that kind of thing. And I think that's one of the things that separates, aside from the gunny. Like there's the obvious physical things, right? Like just the gun skill. I think that's all of those guys have gun skill. There's just some of them are more cerebral and, think better than the others do, So to me, good players just they create good habits.
Well, and I think too, it's kind of like, good players create good habits, but so does, a competitive environment. Like you look at certain creators who have, who've racked up incredibly high kill games because they two-box into, dog shit lobbies. And when they actually have to play good players, they don't do well traditionally. Like that is just like, it's become kind of a known thing, right? Like you get somebody like Nixta, who just can't, what did he went to Next, right, and got absolutely destroyed, is what I read. And you get people like, and Nadia was another one, right, where she, like, number one female Warzone player goes to LAN and gets obliterated, right? And it's like, well, yeah, the reality is she was probably two boxing most of the time, and we just didn't call it that.
Yeah.
Or call her on it, right? Everybody's focused on other things, but the reality is she probably was just two boxing in. That's why it looked easy for her, and that wasn't quite as obvious. And so I think you get this impression of like how the game should be played, but when you actually sit down and like go to play competitively, and I think that's the thing that people don't do well, is play the game competitively, even if you're not a competitor, right? Even if you're just a regular player. And that's why that I think is the biggest thing people struggle with, is they don't bring the mindset of like, I want to play it smart, and I want to use my brain. I just want to run around and shoot people like I'm one of the 6 versions of Shipment that they're releasing next week. And so you just don't have, like, you have too many players that, like, they might in their protected brackets chow control and win it most of the time because they play, also not good players one way or the other, however they get into those lobbies. But then they get faced with having to actually do it in a mode that people have skill and focus on, and they don't perform, right? There are performance issues. And that's what I observed, and look, I'm not, my username sometimes counts and is accurate, but it's close enough most of the time. And it's like, when I look like a player leaps and bounds ahead of other people at my rank, and I can tell that they're just playing dumb, right? Solo pushing squads and chowing from making bad choices on how to chow a building. It's like, if you're going to run across an open field and chow somebody on the roof of the building and they see you, like, you're not going to live very long. Like, that's not going to go the way you think it's going to go. But people are used to scenarios where they can do that and they get away with it because they're not playing people who are good or even at their level. And I think that is a problem. I think that is a wider issue of SBMM that we don't talk about as much, right? You have so many players that are just like, they're just hard stuck right where they get a lot of protected bracket quality play, but they're not ever learning, right? Because they can just keep doing the same stuff over and over again, and eventually they'll lose a couple matches, and they'll do poorly for a little bit, and then they start getting good lobbies again, where they can do that and then get away with it. And so they never learn how to take that next step up, because that's the hardest part, is how to learn how to step up from where you are to the next level. And a big part of that is being faced with people at that level routinely, right? And that these players never see that, right? So they're better than the terrible players, but they're not good enough to compete, to play with everybody else. So they just kind of hover in between it. And I say this out of experience because, I played with a squad that we lived in this limbo space where it's like, some days we run into good players and you see them and you're like, what the hell is this? This guy's got to be cheating. And then you actually watch, and then you look at it and you're like, well, when you go look at the stats, well, he's probably not cheating because his stats aren't that good. And he's been playing for a long time. He's very consistent. He's just better than me, right? He was just better than me at the end of the day. But then other lobbies where I would be one of the better players in the lobby, and those lobbies are the ones, people chase those lobbies because you can be the king of the hill, you can be better than everybody, and you don't have to work on getting better. You don't have to work on improving, right? And I think that's what people run into when they play ranked. They get, a lot of people, I think, get carried to a higher rank, or they cheese their way out by placement. But when it comes to actually getting into gunfights, and I mean literal, like, 1v1 gunfights with somebody in intense, where you have to use cover, where you have to play it smart, they crumble and they get wiped quickly. And I think that's the biggest problem with, I think that's where SBMM hurts the average player way more than they think it does. Because they can live in this limbo land where it's like they really don't have to get better. And so many people just stagnate out at a certain point where they're never pushed to improve.
I don't think a lot of people really want to improve, man. I mean, if we're being real, if the sentiment is I work 40 hours a week and have 2 kids, 3 dogs, a fish, and a fucking turtle, I should be able to hop on this game and and it be an easy time for me. I mean, that's a mindset thing, dude. People don't want to get better. They just don't. So, I think that's also why a lot of people are kind of stuck in that. But, the thing about that whole being carried thing is, so like in ranked. So when I was scheduling my ranked matches, and I did have a team that I ran with specifically, and I didn't really run ranked with, a whole lot of people, was because I wanted it to be where I'm the worst person on the team, where I don't have to do the IGLing. I don't have, they fucking point, we shoot, that kind of thing. And I did get to diamond, but I pulled my weight with, different ways of supporting the team and stuff like that. And then the next season I got to diamond on my own, on the last day.
I remember that.
Again. Yeah. So I know that that's not necessarily the case for me. I mean, I'm never going to kill as much as these guys do. I not in the same lobbies with them. I won't, but I think everybody has their role. But yeah, I think you're right though. It's people's mindset is what keeps them hard stuck in places.
And I think it's one of those things you have to put, like, there's a, you know what, I'm gonna say it, like, they need to get rid of like big map and resurgence protected brackets, because there's a mode for that now. Like, play boot camp. Like, if you don't want to get better, just stay there. Maybe play plunder if you want stats to track. But like, I can't make a viable argument for why these protected brackets are helpful year round, right? Like, because they never force people out. Now look, I get it. Like, you get people that are like, you get people with disabilities, you get people that have, that are young, that are new to FPS games, and those folks are going to struggle mightily against, most lobbies, which I totally understand. But at the same time, when you have these protected brackets, and the harder you protect them, the more people like Nixta and like some of these other creators are going to want to get in there for the express purpose of racking up high kill games and getting gameplay clips, right? Like, that's their goal. Like, that's what they want to do. And so there's no like, it ultimately, I don't think is as helpful, right? Because most of the time you're going to have somebody like that in your lobby, and they're going to kick your ass, and there's no incentive to get better.
Well, I mean, that's why I won't go into boot camp. I've heard what boot camp is like, and it's not because there's other sweats in there, or other, as if I'm one. I'm not. But it's not because there are sweats in there. It's because I don't belong in there. That mode was not created for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know what would happen if I go in there. I'm going to drop a lot of kills, and I'd probably get some clips or whatever, but it's just not for me. I'm not interested in doing that.
What if they called it creator mode?
I don't know.
They call it creator mode, because there's I'll tell you what, I don't think there's any SBMM in that mode at all. I've seen iridescence in there. I've seen, like, it's my favorite place now to test builds and practice, because I don't want to practice in a live game. If I'm trying something new, if I'm changing a setting, or if I'm trying a build that I'm not sure it's going to work out, I don't want to go into a full game of Warzone and get shit on with stuff that doesn't work, right? I think it's a great practice mode. But I think the problem is you look at it, and a lot of people, I'll tell you this, I think a lot of people use it for clips, because I've seen tons and tons of high ranking players in there. Like, I've even seen people cheating in that mode. Why would you do that?
Who the fuck cheats in a boot camp, dude?
Who cheats in plunder? I see that too. Like, yeah. I see people cheating at cheaters just suck.
It's true, they
cheating.
Do. And I do want to say, I don't know if Xanthus is listening, but no, this episode won't be live for your 4-hour drive to Vegas, you bastard. He's going to see the World Series of Warzone. But our previous catalog of episodes are all available on the Slightly Above Average Gaming podcast for Spotify as well as Apple Podcasts. So you can catch those some past episodes there if you haven't listened. We've got a couple long ones too. In fact, I think the last one was pretty damn long.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we got time for you, or we got episodes up for you.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
But I think the habits of, so here's the thing. Here's the problem is they're not a good practice mode in this game, right? I mean, you can play, if you have multiplayer or Game Pass, you can play private lobbies, right? But there's not a good mode where you can actually try Warzone stuff where it doesn't count, right? I mean, Plunder's like the closest you're going to get to it. And I think the problem with that mode is that people play it very differently, right? Because it's, some people are in there actually playing the mode. A lot of people are there leveling guns or doing challenges. And it's a weird mode to play. I think Warzone lacks that. Like, there's not even if you look at like X Defiant, they have, look at their shooting range, right? Or Apex has like a very interactive range where there's a lot to do. Yeah. And I think the problem is there's no way to practice something in Warzone unless you're in a live game. And unless you do that, and like when you do that, especially in like the way that the lobbies have been lately, you're having to practice something that you are unfamiliar with against very, very, very good players most of the time. And I think it's a detriment to a lot of players. Again, it's a reason not to get better, because if you try something new, then you're going to get shit on while you're trying to figure out how to do something new, right? I feel like calling that mode boot camp is a mistake, because it creates the incentive, a disincentive to do anything with it. When the reality is, it has a lot of benefits for most players that want to try something. You want to try a new gun build that you don't know if it's going to work. You want to try, learning a hop up spot, right? Like, how do you get good at a hop up spot? Well, you have to play hundreds of live games, and the circle has to carry you to the spot you want to go to, right? And then you can practice, right? And that's, for a lot of players, is frustrating, because they just never bother practicing those hop up spots. Like Resurgence has, Rebirth Island has has that you can get up to the the wall. So on the skinny side of prison, you can run up that sloped wall,
mm-hmm.
and there's a hop up there, and you can catch people by surprise. And I know players, I know people that have played on that for years, and they will never try it, even when it's clear. And when I ask, why don't you do this? Just hit that spot, and they go, I don't know how to do that. And so they don't do it, because they're in a game, right? They're in the live game. They're not in practice mode. So they're not going to try something new. They're going to do what they've always done, and they're not going to get better.
Well, you get 37 ways to come back. Just fucking try it.
Yeah, but average player, but it's the same thing in big map, right? How many spots in big map are there that you can do cool stuff, and you're just you might be in that spot once every other week, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah.
If they had a practice mode, right, and they just called it practice mode, instead of saying we're tailoring this for the bad players, you say this is practice mode. Come and practice what you want to get. There's bots and there's real people, so you're going to get a mix of experiences.
Well, I don't think they said it's for bad players. They said,
I'm pretty sure they said it's for bad players.
It's for It's not what you say; it's how you say it, right? We're both married. We should know this by now, right? But no, I don't think I don't think that's a bad idea. Like, I like to practice. Like, I go
practice
in
every day. You practice every damn day.
I don't give a fuck who I'm playing with. If I can't run at least one warm-up match, and I also changed that to headshots only. Because, like I said, I noticed that I'm, losing a lot of gunfights because of shot placement. So I'm practicing that every single day. I do, and it doesn't take that long. I mean, of course, I'm fortunate enough to be able to play as much as I do. Shit, you'd think I'd be better with as much fucking playtime as I have, but that's many bad decisions on my part. So
bad decision making is hard to compensate for.
Well, it is because so what I catch myself doing is I don't really adapt very well a lot of times to whom I'm playing with. Mm-hmm. I'm just go the entire time, and I can't do that. Like I'm ready to fight. We knock one and we break one. I'm ready to push that building and wipe that team out. And sometimes my teammates are not ready to do that. And I push and get clapped. Because they, but it is what it is though, right? Like it's a video game, so I'm not going to play it like my own actual life depends on it, dude. Like, but
you're not going to clear every corner.
No,
stack up and clear corners one at a time.
But what's funny and what's weird is like there's been times where I'm either playing like duos, trios, quads where this has happened, but it's starting to happen a lot more in solos too. Is where like I catch myself making a ton of making good decisions and getting into like a flow state, like rhythm where it's like I'm just winning gunfight after gunfight after gunfight. I meant to mention this, but I did that last week all the way up until I didn't. So last week I was playing solos and I was on a 15 kill burner and I get up on top of, I rotated early. That's the other thing about playing solo. I can fucking rotate when I want to and just get, you know what I mean? But anyway, So I rotate to this building that's got the blue outline on the top, and then it's got the bulkhead, and then there's ladders, and then it's across from the island where the jump tower is, right over by that. So it's that building. I rotate there. There's I end up killing one guy. He dropped a shit ton of money, shit ton of loot. I killed 2 or 3 more guys there. I pick up the buy station, throw it down, get it. I buy a fucking advanced UAV. I bought my sniper rifle. I sniped a couple people further away. And then there's 5 people left. I have an advanced UAV. They end up killing each other to where it's me versus one other. I misread the fucking minimap on my jump. It was just a bad read because the circle pulled across the street. So I was going to try to jump and get ahead of it. I thought he was further up against the big building I was on top of, so I thought I'd have a little bit of room. Nope, dropped right in front of him. I almost killed him, but he still clapped shit out of me. That would have tied my Warzone PR. But it was a bad decision. I made a bad decision.
You know what?
And I do that a lot.
It was funny because in ranked, like the game that I posted, it was I made a very bad decision, right? Of following my idiot teammates into control. And, because they were pushing that direction and attacking from the low ground, which is usually a very successful thing to do. Mm-hmm. Attacking low ground or from low ground to high ground against teams that know you're there.
I've gotten a little too arrogant and cocky about that too. So
yeah, and so we all got killed. Our third one got knocked. But selfed and was able to open a box or two and get the countdown timer low enough that when he got knocked before he got killed, I got back. And so I looked around and it was I could just see teams. I could just see the gunfights raging from, top of bio was fighting top of chem. And then prison was fighting and the circle was kind of closing. It was going to close. It was going to close where the final circle would start over helipad and just the final. It would hit the final circle part right at the edge of water tower. So I dropped on water tower, right, and everybody else dropped after me. Well, they all hard sent teams that were there.
Why would you do that at the end?
That's what I wanted to know, and then they died immediately, and I just had to sit there with. You come back at that point. I had a. I think he comes back with a 5.5 with the 5.56 and a core 45 with an extendo mag, an 18 round mag, and that's and 30 rounds of AR. I had 2 people try to drop on me, and then I had 2 others climb up water tower and hang out on one of the lower rings. I think they just didn't know I was there. That was the easiest 4 kills I've gotten in a while. And meanwhile, I've got these teammates pinging buy stations incessantly. And I'm like, I'm watching, and it's like I watched one guy go to the buy station, and I killed him with the pistol before he could get his buys off. Like, why would I go there if like that's how easy it is? And I had no money. I had like $1,200, right? Like, why would I give up this spot where I'm getting SSR, we're getting good placement, I'm getting kills because people are being forced into the area. And we went from 10th or 11th when I hit that to 3rd.
Dude, that's a big multiplier difference too.
Yeah, and I was getting kills late, so I mean, I ended up, it was one of the big games that boosted me up to where I could get into platinum, and it was just smart play, right? Like every instinct in me was to run and gun, and I hate sitting somewhere and doing nothing. But sometimes that's the play you have to make. You have to make the smart play in order to do well in the game overall. Because if you just push shit, you're just gonna die.
Well,
and it's like
you play different in ranked. But
you don't learn that playing bad players all the time, because you can push bad players and because they're bad players, you win that gunfight as often as not, right?
Yeah.
And it's like you have to eventually fight people better than you. Like you have to step it up. And I get not wanting to step up. And look, this comes from years of playing sports, right? There's a point of you want to play people better than you because that makes you better, right? Iron sharpens iron. Okay. What you don't want to do is be put in a situation where you don't get a chance to learn anything from getting your butt kicked, right? So like when I played, I managed a beer league team for 10 damn years, and this team, I was always pushing this team to move up, and we'd have good years and we'd have bad years, but you'd always end up with these ringers, right? With these players that were like significantly better. Like, it'd be like getting Crimson players to play on your, to play with your squad of golds, right? In a gold lobby. Like that guy's just going to run the table.
It's like Riddick playing with us in pubs.
I mean, but it's like, what's the, kind of like, nobody's going to really get much out of that except a win on the scoreboard, right? At the end of the day, because he's going to take all the kills, because he's going to get there first. He's going to get the better shots in. He's going to storm in and push ahead of everybody. Everyone's chasing him the whole time.
That's a fucking fact. That's why them tack boots are so good.
But what do you get out of it, right? Besides a win, you're not getting into gunfights. You're not getting the experience of fighting a team. You're always going to be at a strong advantage when he's at your side, because he's going to carry the load of the work, right? So everyone's going to, he's going to be putting them off balance, and if you're getting kills, you're mopping up for the most part, right? Like when you play with people that are significantly better than you, like there's some sense of like, oh, this is good to experience, like, playing at this speed, but like I can't take that lesson back to my, to the players at my level, right? And it was the same thing in hockey,
because they're not going to want to play that way,
right? And you're not good enough because you haven't had the experience of actually pushing squads and 1v squatting. Like you need to have that, you need to have that experience, and you need to get it in a way that you aren't just going to step in the door frame, get 2 shots off and get killed. Like, because all 4 of them just gun your face off. Like that's not helpful. That you don't learn from that, right? But you do learn from getting into a fight where they're a little bit better than you, right? And you can kind of push them, and you can kind of see that reaction and see them acting better than you, and then you are forced to step up if you're going to win the fight. And I think that's something that I think that's something we need more of, right? As players, like we need to have this ability to be challenged at something that's attainable for us, right?
Well, let me say this with all that you just said. The problem is the way it's set up now, it disincentivizes playing with friends of all skill levels. So you learn from people that are better than you. Typically, I mean, I've played a lot of games with Riddick. Like the guy's just fucking naturally good at every video game I've ever seen him play. And I've learned a lot from him, but like at certain times, it's like, I'll see him come in my chat and I'm like, and I don't tell him no, but I know what the night's going to be like. I don't learn anything fucking just sitting in the lobby, like waiting, cause I'm dead all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, I mean, like that was again, my biggest gripe about, the matchmaking side of things, but no, last night, dude, I got to tell you. So I'm playing solos and I'm on top of a building at Lowtown and I'm like, oh shit, my beer's empty. I want to fucking get up and go get a beer. So I laid down and I'm like, fuck it, if I die, I die. I come back and I see on my screen, there's a guy. I swear, I don't know how he didn't see me. Maybe I blended in with the trash. If that's not life imitating art, I don't know what is. He didn't see me. I fucking earholed him. And then not even a second or two later, I hear, I actually got the audio cue. I hear somebody else dropping it on me. So I kill him. A couple seconds later, same thing. Kill that person. It happened a third time. I killed that person. It was the same. I think it was the same guy 2 of those 3 times. He kept coming back. And he chowed me with a fucking pistol. And I'm like, what? Like, that's just kind of the dumb shit, right? But,
hey, you know what? If you can, challenging somebody with a pistol and winning that gunfight is one of the best feelings. Like, I chase that high as much as I chase wins, because when you can clip that and you just sit there and you can like throw that down and gloat it and like, what, I see you're superior and I raise you, a starter pistol.
Yeah.
It's great. It's a good feeling.
Dude,
so I don't have any problem with somebody like ego challenging someone that just killed them with a pistol, because to me, like, when you win that fight, the the reward is so worth it. But you got to go into it knowing you're probably going to die.
Well, look at the ground. There's a reason there's a whole pile of fucking loot. I'm probably not the person to fuck with right there, but I mean, I have a great clip with a starter pistol where I killed a few, I don't know, maybe 3 people with it. And I'm like, I'm John Wick, bitch. It was
nice.
just a funny little moment or whatever. But no, it was just funny because that is legitimately the first time I've gotten up away and like been laying down and I come back and there's somebody there. Thank God they were like fucking Stevie Wonder and didn't see me, because it would have been a fucking free kill for him. And you know what? It would have been my fault, obviously. But I said, if I die, I die. I'm going to go grab a beer. You
know what? It's funny. You're talking about that pile of bodies. So I was saying, I don't know if you have that scenario, but like sometimes I come across somebody and I say like, oh, look, a fresh body. And it literally stems from when I was in way back when we were playing N64 with one of my friends who's no longer with us. But he was like, him and his brother and me and somebody else, and we were all playing. And like, I literally was like holding down this one angle in the Mayan map, and I killed my buddy, and then his brother walks in and goes, oh, hey, look, a fresh body. And I shoot him right on top of it, right? And then the third guy comes and goes, where's that body?
Oh my God.
And then they all look at me and I'm just sitting here like, what? And they started screen watching after that.
Well,
so
that's the equivalent of basically doing a 1v1 chow, right? It's like, the guy's already killed your first 2 fucking teammates. You might not want to go in there. And a lot of times, if I ain't first in there, I'm the third person in there, so I should know better not to fucking do it.
I played with Lipe. I decided to play with Lipe that last night. So Lipe, Carlos, and Guerra.
Was he on roller, by the way?
I don't remember. I didn't look, but I didn't ask. But we were at the mansion, and we were trying to get a contract that was in that underground on the mansion, and so Carlos goes, I'm going to go in and get it. He goes underneath, and he goes, oh, there's a team here, and he dies. And Lipe runs in, he goes, oh, I'll help, and then he dies. And then Guerra goes, oh, he goes running in, and I'm like, well, I guess we're all going to go and fight this team. It turns out we didn't kill any of them. They just immediately murdered everybody. 1, 2, 3, right? And I watched Guerra go down, and all of a sudden I see him go into, him go down, and like the little health bar pops up, and I'm like, nope, not going in there. Scary. And I turn around and I just run my ass off, and like, and we ended up like 7th or 8th in that game at the end of the day. But it was like, I understand when it's time to run now. Like I will not chow that, because we are 0 for 3, and there's a team in there, and
we used to call that, because we had a buddy, my buddy Bry. He was always the last fucking dude alive, no matter what. And one night, something happened, and I asked what happened, and then I'm like, wait, I said, did you just fucking put on them air bras and just fucking dip? And he's like, yep. And I'm like, so that's been kind of the saying in our little group, air bras, because he put on them fucking track shoes and he was gone, cuz.
He gone. He run it. But
no, it's It's been fun playing solos. Multiplayer's been actually pretty fun too. For the most part, I got a little aggravated the other day playing multi because I've been playing it by myself, but then as soon as like Jigsy and King join, you know what the lobbies were.
Lobbies go to shit.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. SBMM's great though, guys.
My problem is I play terribly on stream. I don't know why. Like I do know why, because I'm more focused on being on stream than I am on playing the damn game. But yeah, it's like anytime I punch live, it's like my gameplay just goes.
I have up and down days with that, dude.
I almost wonder if Activision monitors your Twitch channel to see if you're live, and then it's like, oh, let me give you the good lobbies. You're not whitelisted.
Streamer loot. We call it streamer loot, but at the end of the day, it's because these guys know where to fucking land to get the most amount of loot and money and shit.
Well, yeah, because it's like the buildings that have like extra chests and shit are they're always the same. It's like which buildings are gonna have the multiple red chests and all that shit.
Yeah, so it's not really true RNG, is it? If everything's in the same place.
The distribution of assets is not totally random. Chests are always in about the same spot. It's the question of whether they all spawn. So it's like they don't. If they just said randomly, like let's just randomly spawn chests at a random location in the game, then chests would just like spawn in walls and like under stairs and in places you can't get to them more than they do. And so they place the chests have placements, right? Like they
rotate because there's not always like a chest at a specific location.
Yeah,
it does rotate.
They'll have like they'll have like 100 chests available in the game, and it's like, and then they'll have like maybe 150 locations for them, and they'll just randomly kind of go. I don't know the numbers, but that's kind of how they'll figure it, right? So there'll be a percentage of the chest locations, possible locations, will spawn, and then certain areas will be considered like high value areas because it's how they try to create like hot drops, right? They make high value they make areas have a high distribution of loot so that people will learn to go there, right? That's what drove Superstore before, is that Superstore was a high value location because it always had a ton of cash and a ton of loot in a very small space. That's one of the reasons people liked it so much, is that you can go there and it was like instant loadout.
Train station in Verdansk was good too for that.
Yep. And it's like, but you just knew there's always going to be a lot of loot here. And so it's one of the ways that they could create good POI, create popular POIs, off rip, which is good when people actually use it.
So, all right, let me ask you this. We've kind of been a little all over the place today, but that's fine because it's been great conversation, I think. What do you see happening POI-wise between now and, say, I don't know, when the Cold War integration comes, and do you see any of the POIs changing?
I don't know. So I have a couple of theories. I know a lot of folks. So, you and I, between the two of us, we know a number of people that work on this game. And from all the different channels we've had, it seems like most people were actually pulled off of Urzikstan a while back, right? I think like February. People stopped working on, were being pulled off of our February, March, somewhere in there, if I remember right. And that's kind of when a lot of people that I know were no longer assigned to Verdansk. They were doing others, or we knew they were assigned to Verdansk, right? They were working on Verdansk. They were not working on Urzikstan anymore. And I firmly believe they moved up and took a lot of resources from the big map to bring Rebirth Island online faster than normal, because by all reports, Rebirth Island is supposed to be later in the year than we got it, like towards the end of summer. And so I think what happened is they saw the success of the OG map in Fortnite, combined with the sales and the bad press that they got in MW3 at launch, right? And the sales were not. It would take seeing the actual books for me to believe that MW3 sold well, at least in the first quarter. And so I think the game. I think they felt that the game was at risk, and they shuffled things around to kind of bolster the Warzone player base to keep them playing. Because Warzone, multiplayer got a great year. There's no room to complain about multiplayer this year compared to the last 4 years. Multiplayer was treated like the princess for sure, except for this season. But
no, they got 6 fucking variants of shipment,
which all look kind of fun. I'm going to play that mode for a bit just to play on them all because that's hilarious to me. But I think what they did in the shuffle of that, I think a lot of people got moved off of Verdansk or onto Verdansk, so they weren't developing on Urzikstan. I think a lot of the planned changes either got scrapped or punted to later because they needed to devote assets to bringing Rebirth, bringing what's it called online, right? And you have to keep in mind of what they were doing behind the scenes besides just redoing the map, like adding the map back in. They brought specialists in. They brought which created that whole season 1 reloaded launch failure, if you remember.
Where everybody had fucking superpowers or whatever.
No, remember there was a couple of days where it's just the game would give you an epileptic seizure because it was just blah and it was crashing when you were getting loadouts and stuff like that. A lot of that was tuned to they brought they'd accidentally pulled in specialist assets that broke stuff. So so you look at a lot of the stuff that went on early, and you look at how long it takes to develop some of the stuff. I think we were supposed to get changes to Big Map during this time period, but I think those assets got redirected to either redirected or laid off, which I know we want to touch on that in a minute. But so I think Big Map was the sacrificial goat this year. And my hope is, and it's definitely reasonable to assume, my hope is that they did not do a lot of big map changes because they're saving it for after the integration, right? So when they integrate, because we know they did this with Modern Warfare, with MP, not Modern Warfare, but with MP, where Season 6 maps for multiplayer and even some Season 5 maps have been pulled for Blackout. And they're going to be in Blackout instead of where they were supposed to be here.
Sledgehammer getting fucked over yet again.
Yeah, but that happens every year.
It happens to them every year. Yes.
It happens every year. It happened
They're
last
the only
year.
ones that can make good fucking maps. It happened
in Modern Warfare 2. It happened to Cold War.
There were
guns pulled. There were guns pulled from the original 2019. The what was the gun? There was a gun. There were guns that launched in Cold War gun, the Vargo. The Vargo didn't launch until in Cold War until after support had ended for that. They launched that in Season 1 of Vanguard, but it was a Cold War gun. Remember that? They did it with the CX-9 in Modern Warfare 2019. They teased the CX-9. They actually had it in ground loot, and then they didn't release it until Season 1 or Season 2. I think Season 2 or season launch, after the launch, somewhere in there. They didn't launch it until during Cold War in 2019. So they definitely do pool assets and move assets around to coordinate launch times. It's not new necessarily. The fact that the fact that Sledgehammer is probably getting it twice, probably true.
When they basically can only launch one new map for Season 6 and then fucking 6 reskins of a map that's already been a reskin 18 other times.
Yeah. Overall, it's been a good year for multiplayer. But I think I think what's going on with the big map is the things that they were supposed to have this year, I think are getting they either got scrapped completely or they got pushed back. And instead, it was focused on bringing Rebirth in, and the focus was on Resurgence this year. My hope is when they release it when the integration happened, we'll get some POI changes. Some of these POI changes that we probably should have had this year, we will get with research with season.
That'd be good.
And then that'll carry us, because it'll be, assuming it launches the first week of December, which has been the last couple of years, you get you have December, January, February, 3.5 months of this map, right? From the integration on, you could make some good changes there, right? And I wouldn't be shocked if they made some bigger changes starting with the integration. Like, oh yeah, it's an integration, but hey, we're changing, like, kind of not to the extent that they did in 1984, where it was kind of a new map, but it's like they take some major adjustments to it to kick off Black Ops. That would make sense to me.
It makes sense to me too. And they're going to be like, oh, well, the fucking update size is 180 gigabytes. So what's another fucking
It's going to be that way anyways.
I know, right? But yeah, no, it's interesting. It kind of feels like, though, as a big map player, it's like you wake up for Christmas thinking you're going to get some good shit, and then all you get's a fucking lump of coal. That's legit what being a big map player has felt like this year. But I can tell you, I will say this: I'm feeling a lot better about it now than I did, say, 3 months ago.
Yeah,
because they've done something, but it's still like that's enough to say they did something. But like, just overall, like, we need that constant flow of of changes and updating and stuff like that. I mean,
yeah.
I think the problem
or even events. Like, give us events. Like,
yeah, the problem is this. So we all play Call of Duty mostly. But, dude, if you think for a second that people don't look and see what a lot of these other games are doing with their content, with their maps, their rotations, and those things, we all see that. And we trying to figure out why, if those companies are doing it with those games and that player base, why can a $1 billion game, like a game that generates $1 billion off just the multiplayer side of things, like why can't they?
Because people complain about the file size now. Good Lord, can you imagine if you had to download this game like every 3 months?
I still can't believe we haven't integrated more like Warzone, make it more like cloud-based.
Because there's other games. It's terrible. They just did. The texture stream. What do you think the texture streaming does?
That's what that is?
Yeah.
Huh.
So the point of texture streaming is that instead of installing 100 gigabytes of textures onto your hard drive and then having you load it up as you play.
This is why he gets paid the big bucks, folks, just so you know.
What they do is they store those textures in the cloud, and basically as you play, it loads the map around you, right? And so, especially people on good internet, like, who cares, right?
Yeah, I don't have any problems with that at all. Right. Like, that's why, when you said that, I'm like, okay, what about it? Like,
people
not an issue for me.
On bad internet, like certain people we know on this podcast that have been dealing with bad internet for a while, that's not good for them, right? Because, like, if my internet response is like 50 milliseconds, right, that means I'm not getting textures fed to me for that amount of time. Like, and 50 milliseconds is like is the difference between winning and losing a gunfight a lot of times, right? Like, that's a bullet, right? So when it's not able to load, when there's that delay in everything it does, right? It's a delay in knowing it has to fetch textures and loading stuff out. That's information that's not going to be available to you as quickly as it should. And it's also taxing on your system. And so, it's you get a lot of degraded, I get a lot of degraded, views with texture streaming on, which I try to avoid. But it's all about lightening up the amount of hard drive space you need. Like, I don't love it. I don't fucking care. Memory's cheap. Why the hell do people complain about how much memory something takes up? I don't understand. Like, they didn't have to live on floppy disks. You used to have to install 37 floppy disks to play a game. Okay. But right now it's like everyone's very concerned about, oh my gosh, it takes up 100 gigabytes. I don't fucking care. It's like $100. Buy another terabyte. But if we wanted to put a whole nother map in there, right, that map's going to have a whole nother texture package. It's going to have, new sets of telemetry, new sets of occlusion. All that has to be installed.
Let me ask you this. So did you see the video of Nadeshot this week talking about the server tick rate? Does that have anything to do with that? The quality of the servers that they use?
Probably.
I wonder if that's not, part of the issue. But I also too, and I get like map size might be different, from other games compared to this one, but those PUBG maps are fucking huge too.
Yeah, but how big is PUBG? I'm gonna look it up because I don't know off the top of my head. How big is PUBG?
You talking about player count?
No, I'm talking about the install size.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not
40
sure.
gigs. The whole game is 40 gigs.
Dude, did we just have like a fucking 100 gigabyte update?
Yeah, but well, that's good. But we had that update because they uninstalled all of your textures. They got the textures off of our hard drives and they're in the cloud now. That's why you can't turn texture streaming off anymore.
Gotcha.
So that reduced it, but Warzone's still 60 something gigabytes, and it's because all of the information that we have is so much richer, right? And whether or not that's good, right? I mean, PUBG is a much more simple game in terms of graphics and sound design. It just is, right? They're not going for the detailed character models and that they don't have, and I'll say this, having all the weapons is definitely a different aspect to the game because, how many weapons does PUBG have at any given time, right? Same like Fortnite, right? There's like 8, right? 8, and then different, color variants that different, different damage assets.
And they're ground loot weapons too. There's not loadouts, so they don't have to consider that. So they can rotate their pool. That's the other thing, though. They can rotate their pool of ground loot weapons and what they vault for a season or two, because Apex does that. Mm-hmm. And that's why it seems fresh.
But you have to keep in mind, right? They only need to have the sound files for all the different sounds that every gun makes. For a few guns, they only have to have the textures for those guns. They don't have, I don't know what they do with skins, right? If they have DLC, but everybody has to have the DLC installed, right? Whether you use it or not, whether you own it or not, the files still have to exist so that you can see it, right? That's why you can see my DLC gun, right? Or my DLC characters, because that file lives on your computer too. And all of this stuff gets, all of this stuff adds up, right? And so maybe with this change to forcing textures into the cloud and texture streaming, maybe what we're going to run into is we actually can do this, because now, you can probably have 35 gigs. A map only take up 35 gigs. And that's something they could probably manage to have a 30 gig update every season. Well,
and separating it and letting you choose what you update also, mm-hmm. as far as like what's on your machine, whether it's, the campaign, the multiplayer, zombies, whatever, like the fact that they're separating everything out like that, I think that they did actually recognize that their updates are, as they were too fucking big. I mean, like my son, dude, of course he's Wi-Fi, so that's probably why. Like his update will be smaller than mine, and it'll take him a lot longer. We're on the same internet, but I'm hardwired, so my shit's done in like 45 minutes, whereas like for him, it's like 2 hours sometimes. Yeah. Depending on the size.
Probably because he's on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, he's on the Wi-Fi. But, while we are kind of going long, but before we wrap up, we probably should address the layoffs for Microsoft.
Well, I mean, so my understanding, it's a lot of marketing, and it's a lot of Activision marketing and a lot of mobile. I think
I heard Warzone Mobile.
Mobile got hit with that, which I'm disappointed. I'm sad. And look, we are always on the side of the devs, right? As human beings,
the ground level developers, yes,
the developers, right?
Management, fuck them.
You don't have the ability to make your own decisions. You're rowing the boat. You do what you're told. Like, we get it. We totally and I've been there. I've been in those shoes, so I understand how frustrating it is to not be able to do to make the changes and do things the way that you think they should be done versus the way you're being told to make them. Okay, I get it. We don't. And we don't ever want to make it feel like we are going after you specifically. But in this case, I think I'm not surprised that Warzone Mobile is paring down its team. And I think it's, and I'm not surprised that Activision is losing marketing people because Microsoft has a gigantic marketing department of their own.
So a lot of duplicate stuff. Unfortunately, people are caught up in that. But let me say this. I don't know what the player count is, but just on the surface, to me, if Warzone Mobile was doing that great, they wouldn't be laying a bunch of people off.
Well,
exactly. I think that's miscalculation number 2 behind DMZ and that. Like, stop. I think it's time to stop making those choices.
No, I don't think that's wrong. I think that's wrong. I don't think Warzone Mobile was a bad product. I think that they couldn't do it for Android. I think Android has too many different. It's a different architecture. It's harder to develop for, and it has too many variations. So it's very hard to optimize for. It's very difficult.
I'm not saying that it has to do with whether it's a bad product or not. I know it was a fun experience. I take your word for it. Like I played it a couple matches, 1 or 2, and it was cool. But it's a miscalculation of where to allocate resources again from what basically got you where you are outside of the multiplayer things. Put money into Warzone. Stop with the DMZ. Stop with the mobile stuff. That's what I'm saying.
Well, the mobile. I mean, mobile's the big. Mobile is is more than half of the player base. More than half of the player base.
Where's the fucking money then?
It's in COD Mobile.
Well, yeah, nobody wanted to switch over. That's one of the things I was reading. Like, people are talking about like not wanting to switch over from COD Mobile because it was a better experience.
They made the mistake of not building it on the platform that COD Mobile was built on, so it's compatible with COD Mobile. And I what they were trying to do was brilliant. I think it was brilliant, and we're seeing Valorant's got one coming up, got a mobile game coming up, and some other places have done mobile games, and they're supposed to intertwine the same way, which I think is where you should be. The problem with COD Mobile was already so established that you had to try and pull players. You had to steal your player base from COD Mobile, and I think a lot of those players have 2 factors. One, they're already super invested in COD Mobile. They've already got the players that play that routinely. They've already got money sunk into it. They've bought battle passes. They've got all their skins and weapons that they like, just like we do, right? Like, what holds us back from jumping into a new game a lot of times is how much we have invested in this one, right? How much money do you leave on the table if you walk away from Warzone?
Well, they didn't learn from what they do with the other titles, because if you notice, like, if they really wanted to push everybody to COD to Warzone Mobile, they start dripping back support for it, right? Like, that's what they do with the previous titles. Like, so this year, Modern Warfare 3 is the current title. As soon as Black Ops 6 launches, you're not going to really see a whole lot of support for this after that.
Yeah,
but everything goes towards what they're
right.
The priority of Black Ops 6. So my thing is like, if you're going to invest in all this money and time into Warzone Mobile, you damn sure better make sure that the player base will translate over.
But the problem is they don't own COD Mobile. They own the license to it. The game is not theirs. The game is a reskin of a different game that company was making, and they got the license and they made it Call of Duty, but it's not Call of Duty.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's not.
They own everything else, so that's why it's surprising to me that they don't.
But that's why they made Warzone Mobile. That's why they want to do Warzone Mobile, so that they own it, right? That's why nothing ever carries over from mobile to COD Mobile to the premium title, because it's a different company. Different company owns it. Different company runs it. And Call of Duty, Activision has just collected a check, right? They don't. It's not their developers. They don't do the marketing for it, right? It is literally like the pinnacle of capitalism, right? You guys go, here's money and a name. Go make me a product that gives me money, and then I'll take my cut. It's and it's very well received. I've played it quite a bit. It's a lot of fun. It's a very enjoyable game.
My son has played it, and that's why I guess maybe the timing was kind of just, again,
the timing
for Warzone Mobile.
Warzone Mobile made 2 mistakes, right? Aside from trying desperately to be an Android first, like an Android compatible one, because it's really not, right? Like, that is such a high resource intensive program. it's unbelievable how much of system resources it needs, and Android is not good for that. But that being said, the biggest problem that they had is they did the X-Defiant thing. They missed their target window. They were supposed to launch shortly after Modern Warfare 2 came out, and they delayed it for over a year. And by the time it came out, it was stuck in Modern Warfare 2 does Verdansk. And the biggest highlight that they had was you got Verdansk back and you got Rebirth Island back. And then they threw in multiplayer, which stomps straight on the toes of COD Mobile. And COD Mobile has a BR, which came out shortly before Warzone Mobile was announced. So now COD Mobile players, they have a BR experience, they have multiplayer experience, and this new game's coming out, and it's trying to do all three of those as well. It can't do it on Android. It can't. It does it well on a good iPhone, right? I had no problem running it on my 15 Pro Max supersized 27 camera phone.
Shut up, bragger.
But again, like it did, not everybody has that. And so it struggled on other devices, which was one of the reasons why it was delayed so much. But by the time it lands, right, it landed and it was like Rebirth Island came out like a month later. Like it was literally a stopgap for like a month. And then Rebirth Island was back, and it was like there was no need for COD Mobile anymore.
You just don't even hear anything about it other than now that people are getting laid off, which sucks, man. Like,
I mean, it's like, look, right, right now, one of my, I work, I do some, I actually subcontract to my wife for this, but like she's an event coordinator, and we have to close out events. So I do the late night closeouts, which involves me sitting in my truck for like 2 hours while they wrap up and clean before I sign them off, which is all fine and good. But it's like, that's time I'm just sitting there with my, fingers going like this, do. And so I do play that sometimes on the weekends when I have one of these events, and it has steadily gotten worse. Unfortunately, they just don't. I don't know. I don't know what they've changed or what they've tried to do, but it doesn't play the same as it did at launch. It's not been as good, and at the end of the day, I think it's so poorly optimized that it's very hard to find a strong player base for. So at the end of the day, I mean, this is straight up, it's a great potential. It's a great idea. And if they had a more narrow focus, it probably could have been weller received. But the reality is, at the end of the day, Warzone Mobile just is not going to be the game that gets it done. And maybe they'll try this again, or maybe they'll better integrate COD, the COD Mobile game that's out there, which would be cool. You can maybe just let XP carry over. But it's not like, it's not good.
I want to break a little bit of news.
I do not.
A while back earlier when we were talking, Modern Warzone tweeted, and I think surely we all knew that was not going to be the case, but your tokens not transferring over, buddy, from Modern Warfare 3 over to Black Ops, which is not surprising.
But it carries over Warzone, right?
I don't know.
Yes. Unused Modern Warfare 2 or MW3 XP tokens only transfer over to Call of Duty Warzone after that. And that's not surprising.
It's not too bad. It's not like that, but yeah, I've got to actually I got to dip. I got to make some phone calls before 5.
All right. We'll wrap up. Good episode. Had a good time. We're sitting at 126 live viewers. I appreciate everybody who's popping in. We've been doing this live thing. I think we've been enjoying it. I think you guys have been enjoying it. We can have you guys listening every time. Please do remember to grab the episode on Spotify. At least give it an extra listen through, pick up something you missed, or at the very least help our ad rev pick up a bit. But yeah, we definitely appreciate everybody that's come by. Hope you guys had a good time. I know Jay's he's got to get off, so I'm going to run the jingle and close it out. And we will see you next week. Next week's a little bit different. Jay's traveling all weekend, so we will have probably just a very short recap of a few things that we're going to record earlier in the week, and then we will be back to a regular scheduled operations after that. So thanks everybody for coming by. We will catch you on the next one.
Appreciate y'all.
This has been SuboneKD along with J007tv and the Slightly Above Average Gaming Podcast. We're logging off now, so we'll see you next time.